Welcome back to the Childhood Cancer Perspective, and thank you all for sticking with me through all of these episodes as I continue to detail the journey of a family, my wife and I, as well as my other two daughters, when our daughter, JC, was diagnosed with a rare form of brain cancer. Following her passing, we have continued on in our nonprofit efforts, and social media has given us a silver lining in that we've been able to meet and connect with a lot of other great families and organizations that are really after the same thing, which is awareness and understanding of pediatric cancer, and we just want to be heard. So my guest today is somebody that we met through TikTok, which is a love-hate relationship, but it has provided some good relationships, and I'm happy to introduce Mike from the Rylan Strong Network. The floor is yours.
Thanks for having me. I'm sorry that we've met under these circumstances.
Yeah, it's definitely not the way that I wanted to create friendships in my life and wanted to create partnerships, but it definitely has provided a community that is stronger than any that I've ever been a part of.
Yep. I've met people all from California to Wisconsin, New York, now Mexico City, London, Ireland, just all over the world. It's funny how something like childhood cancer brings people together, in this really unfortunate situation.
Right. It brings a lot of people together, and still we are misunderstood and kind of feel like we're in the shadows most of the time. But what I will say is that this community is only getting stronger and bigger and louder. And just through our efforts here, through social media, through the podcast, and through our network efforts, through our nonprofit, we definitely are meeting a lot more and seeing that there's a lot more people out there.
Yeah.
So I want to, kind of have you go into how the Rylan Strong Network was started and what the inspiration was.
Yeah. So the Rylan Strong Network, of course, named after Rylan. Rylan had medullomyoblastoma. It's part of the medulloblastoma family, as in the treatment path that they gave or sort of came up was in that same family of cancers. And so during his treatment, we had a parade for his 6th birthday in January. And it was supposed to be something small. It was right after it was his end of treatment scans. In fact, it was literally the day after they found the spot that would ultimately grow and claim his life. It was supposed to be a small gathering in the neighborhood. We were going to have a welcome back parade for him, trying to get some people involved. And it sort of went viral, I guess you could say. We had 32 different police agencies or police and fire agencies. We had volunteers from all over. What we planned on being maybe a 25 or 30 car parade turned into 1,600 vehicles. And about 4.5 hours it took for them to traverse the parade route. So we sort of figured that, look, if we can make something like this work for Rylan after he died, that we could probably make some other kids' days really, really happy and doing that same thing as well. And so that's what the original sort of goal was from the Rylan Strong Network. When Rylan died, just like lots of other families out there, we were, heavily in debt. We couldn't afford to have a big, expensive funeral. And luckily, the wonderful people over at Lucas Funeral Homes donated that. And it had always been sort of pulling at my heartstrings to be able to want to take care of these families when they lose their child. And so we've sort of shifted focus now to our primary focus outside of supporting the families as they battle, and of course the kids. And research is we pay for funerals or aim to pay for funerals whenever a family loses their child. We're not quite there yet. We're 3 years in. We're still raising money. We're still growing, but we've assisted probably 15 to 20 families with funeral expenses over about 2.5 years. So my goal is to be able to write them a check for $15,000 at the time of the child's passing. Like I said, we're not there yet, but that's a goal.
Yeah, it's an amazing story, and it's unfortunate. It's a repeating story, I guess, over and over, is that these children are going through these battles. He's going through the hardest times, and the families are suffering. But at the same time, we're not paying attention to that, the financial side of it. We're not paying attention to our own mental health, honestly, at
Yep.
that time, and then when that unfortunate day happens, I think it kind of all the world comes in on you, and like all this stuff that you didn't think about or focus on. And yeah, the families, and we've been a part of it and we've seen it. The families, they struggle afterwards to kind of put their life back together, but at the same time, pay the bills and go back to work and try to be normal in a
Yep.
sense.
Yep. It's a struggle. We certainly don't turn people away. We're not specifically just two funerals. I mean, I think more than half of those have been just a monetary need, paying the mortgage, paying the car payment, paying the light bill. I worked 48-hour shifts on an ambulance and then went to Memphis, and Rylan's mom was basically off for a year from her job. So she struggled just as much, if not harder than I did. And so it having, 501s like y'all and like us being able to step in and say, hey, we're here. We've been there, not only for monetary support, but we understand the struggle that you're going through as well. And I've, talked to a lot of families and helped them through, or I say help them. I was an ear for their grief is the best way to put it. And so it's really given us an avenue to be able to stand up and help. And just recently we sponsored with Hello Cure, which was another family. It was Matt and Brianna Mio. They lost their son Landon to brain cancer the same year we lost Rylan. And we've launched a new avenue that not only funds us, the Rylan Strong Network, but it also funds childhood cancer research through Unravel, which if you look at what they do, they're pretty specific about how they use the money and how it goes to research. And it's not just some giant conglomerate sort of big pharma company that's saying they're taking money for childhood cancer research, and yet there's never any new drug development. So a couple really good causes.
Yeah, I was able, and you put me in touch with Matt and with that, with Hello Cure, and I was able to speak with him. I'm still working on getting everything set up on our end so that we can, use that platform, but it is an incredible idea and an incredible way to help, fund the next research, the next drugs, the next cure. Yep. For that matter, because I think, I've spoken to other guests about this. I think a lot of people in the world in general, I think they blindly donate to the big names that they hear about, they see on TV. There's one specific for childhood diseases. There's one specific for breast cancer. They're two giant names. Everybody knows what they are. I don't even have to say them. I think you blindly donate, and it's not a bad thing. They're not doing bad things, but you put all your money in one spot. It's not being focused in the areas where you need it to be focused. So
Yep.
I like the idea of being able to put it right where it needs to go and have the funding directed right at that pediatric cancer research, because there just isn't enough. And whether it's 4%, whether it's 8%, whether it's 20, it's still not enough, because we're not evenly distributing this money and this effort towards the future, that the only ones that are going to be there to take care of us in our old age, they're not going to be around if we don't start making a change now.
Yep, absolutely. I can get on my soapbox here just as well as you can. It's just that the 4% behind everything is mind-boggling. And I watch and I see some of the comments that people say on TikTok and social media, and my mind just wants to explode. The stupidity that is sometimes displayed by people saying that there's more money, when the week Rylan was dying, he was actively dying. I think we got 30 messages on people telling us to trim up our yard clippings and do a dance to the sun god, and we should have done X, Y, or Z, and your child would still be alive. And it infuriates me, because what these families need is of course they need more than the 4% of funding, but they need love and support, because when you sign a DNR for your child, that puts you amongst a handful of other parents that have ever had to do something like that. And it's not a good feeling.
No, I have had conversations with people in the past that have decided that unsolicited advice is the best way to give. And we've brought up that specific form. That DNR form, when you're signing that form, is the worst thing in the world. I don't think that your people understand exactly what it means. And when we had to do it, our other two daughters were angry with us. They said, "You're giving up. You're giving up." And we said, "No." The form means that we know that it's best at this point um, for her to go peacefully and not continually push her through more and more of these untested or treatments and things that are just going to make it worse. You look at the fact that people say, well, there's 50 drugs that are being used for kids, but there's like 6 that are actually approved. Okay. They're
Yep.
putting this into their bodies. Just because it's going for them doesn't mean it's designed for them.
Yep.
And the side effects and what these treatments do to them, I think, is often so much worse than what the cancer is. And at some point, you have to look at it and say, you just can't do it anymore. You just
Yep.
can't put them through that anymore.
Yep. I think at 6 years old, Rylan valued what the quality of life was more than people in their 30s and 40s and 50s sometimes. At 6 years old, he had the wisdom to understand what a quality of life was. Now, I'm not saying by any means that we went over the details of anything with him, because certainly my thought process was I didn't want him scared of anything. But the way he lived his life, especially the last few months, and his zest for life, and just like so many, like Paxton Idell right now jumped out of an airplane yesterday. He's doing bucket list things. These kids have such a zest for life and a yearn to get everything in that they can, and that's why I'm glad to know people like y'all, and Hello Cure, and Annie's Army Foundation, and Fight Like a Llama, trying to make a difference in some of these kids' lives.
I think what I would love to get the most understanding is that these children, these kids, these tiny, tiny heroes, they understand so much more than what they're given credit for.
Yeah.
They also, that zest for life, that smile, they care more about how you're going to feel if something happens to them. They care more about what's going on with you than in their own life. And they truly want to make sure that you're okay. And
Yep.
that is why they are so incredible.
Yep.
I tell the story often that the morning that JC passed, we had several times trying to get her to help her breathing, and she was just having a lot of trouble. And I finally had to get her sisters to come in. I told my wife, I said, I think this is it. I need to get them in here now. She came in, and JC is there. We have the mask on her, trying to get oxygen into her. And I looked at her and I said, "Are you okay?" And she looked at me and she nodded yes. And from that point on, she went into that deep sleep that we all hate, that she doesn't wake up from. She knew what was happening. She understood what was going on, and she wanted to make sure that I knew that she was okay.
Yep.
These children just, I wish that genuine heart that they have was possessed by so many more people in this world, because I think we'd be a better place.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely.
And I don't know how else to put it other than that, because we're facing a battle every single day of trying to get people to really listen to what we have to say and listen to what we're fighting for, or screaming or advocating or yelling. And we're overshadowed by whatever is the clickbaitiest thing on the internet for that day. Everybody knows what pink means, but nobody knows what gold means, and that's
Yep.
a serious issue.
Yeah, we've got our car show coming up in June in Baton Rouge, June 22nd. If anybody lives in Louisiana, and Facebook has all but shut down our page. We had a pretty big outreach, even TikTok. I would get at least 1,000 views a video, and now I get absolutely nothing, and I'm getting more monetary. You want to boost this post, you want to pay us to do this, and I know there's that trend that while I'm getting those requests for money, that none of our content is gonna be out there. And that's not just us. It's a lot of these other foundations that have these big social media accounts too. So it's very frustrating to be routinely pushed into the shadows. when we're looking at big conglomerate mega 501c3s that historically, I'm not, like you said, that nobody needs to name them, but these people have CEOs that are making multi-million dollars a year,
Mm-hmm.
and that's money that could go back to those people. So
Yeah. And I that's another thing is that for me, I have a real issue with if it's a 501c3, if it's a nonprofit, that's exactly what it should mean. I don't take a salary. My wife doesn't take a salary. Tim doesn't take a salary. Our salary is the smiles that we see on the kids, or it's the families that we're able to connect with. Like that's our return on investment. It's advocating and actually connecting with people. And when you see organizations like this that have to break it down by this is how much money is going towards the operating cost and the CEO and all this, it really rubs me the wrong way. I don't think that it's the right way to go, especially when it's something that's supposed to be supporting kids and we can't really see where the money's actually going.
yep, yep.
We don't see return.
I always tell people at our events, usually I'm forced to get up and speak. They'll put a microphone in my hand, which is actually not my favorite thing to do at all. But at the our last event that we helped out with was a benefit for St. Jude's, and they wanted somebody to talk, so I went up there, and I sort of tell people the same thing. I ask who here pays taxes, and most people will begrudgingly raise their hands, and I pay more taxes now than I want to, but that's, I guess, a conversation for a different podcast. So the federal government literally takes money from us. They take money out of our paycheck. Mine comes out every 2 weeks, right? Then they give that money to places like the National Cancer Institute that is responsible for funding when it comes to cancer research. On the other side of that, you have Big Pharma. Big Pharma will apply for a grant to study a drug. So in essence, they get paid to sit there and figure out if this drug is going to work or if it's not going to work. Then after they've gotten paid to see if that drug is going to work, they get to turn around and sell it. And what do you think they do to that drug? Just like epi, just like albuterol, just like insulin was in the news. They hike the price of that drug up 50, 60, 70, $100,000 a vial.
Yep.
Meanwhile, remember, where did they even get the money to do this research from? From me and you,
Yep.
from our paycheck every 2 weeks. So then they'll hike the price, they'll sell it, they'll push it through an FDA, and then they'll get a grant for funding to see the long-term effects. So still, these big pharma companies have not invested anything in this except for time, and they're reaping the process. So my tax dollars, your tax dollars, Tim's tax dollars are funding, in essence, a lack of child cancerhood research because there's no money. Meanwhile, big pharma is profiting millions of dollars, billions of dollars even every year, and we're losing our kids. And just like you and just like me and just like Matt, there are groups of us parents that have finally said enough is enough, and that's one thing that we're really strongly trying to advocate, at least in our state here in Texas.
Yeah. No, it's absolutely, that's when you look at what big pharma does, when you look at what they do with the prices. I mean, I saw a video one time and they, there's a certain senator or congresswoman, I can't remember her name, but she breaks it down on a whiteboard. She goes, this is what it cost when you bought the drug. This is what it cost when you did this. And as soon as you figured out, and it was a cancer drug, as soon as you figured out that it treated more than one cancer, you jacked the price through the roof, because you figured out it was more valuable to you. And it didn't matter that the people couldn't afford it and that people were not able to get the drugs that they needed to even have a chance. And so it's a sad state of affairs that that's where we're at. And we have to fight against, big pharma. We have to fight against the government. We have to fight against the people that are supposed to be working for us. And we work for them tirelessly day in and day out. And we get nothing in return. And we get told that, well, we just don't, the funds aren't there. We don't have the money, right? The government tells us they don't have the money to put forth into that fund to take care of the kids, or they get enough because they get grants. They get, it's on the backs and the shoulders of organizations like ours and parents like us that are carrying the weight, carrying the load of this.
Yep.
And that's not the way that it's supposed to be. If you've advocated, if you've spoken to a senator, to a congressman, and you've heard the words, well, if I support you, I've got to support them. So I can't say yes to you without saying yes to them. I could give a shit what the other person's advocating for, because that's not my hill. This is my hill. I'm in your office now. You can choose to support us, or you can choose to let the rest of the world know that you could give a damn about the future of this country, even though every single politician, left, right, down the middle, has used children in their campaigns at some point. Every single one.
Yep.
Find me one that hasn't, and I'll sell you a bridge.
Yep.
Yep.
It's so funny, and I don't know. I'm on the how do I say this politely? Sometimes I tend to not say things. I tend to say them mean, and I'm not trying to. But that hill that me and you stand on, there are other 501c3s out there that are advocating for childhood cancer research. And I watch them day after day after day send out email after email after email after email wanting money. And you look at their records for 6 years, 7 years, 10 years going back, and nothing has changed. And these are ginormous 501c3s. And I would never call out anybody or want to make anybody feel bad. But I know since the Rylan Strong Network has been born, I have had 3 separate phone calls / emails of big giant pediatric cancer research 501c3s wanting to absorb us into their program or buy us, in essence. And it just infuriates me to no end, because to me that's no different than being a part of that problem on Capitol Hill.
Yeah. We're all supposed to be fighting for the same cause, right? We're essentially, that's what our missions are, is to fight and cure, end childhood cancer. And there's a certain organization, once again, and I'm not going to call anybody out either. They know who they are, and that I have spoken to, that I've dealt with. That I had a bill that I was trying to push here in Wisconsin, and I spent 2 years trying to get it pushed, and it kept having the brakes put on it because it was asking for money from the government. So it was a big no-no. And so I, finally reached out, or I had another organization, that I got in contact with, because they were pushing a bill, a cookie cutter bill that they do in every state. They do it everywhere, and they get it passed most places because they have the money and the push behind to get that support, to get that bill written, to get it done. The problem is, it's essentially the same damn thing that I was trying to push, that they said that they would help me on my end. Spoke to them, never had it done, never got any support from them. I reached out, and, I got into their Zoom calls and stuff to find out what's going on. And I finally just, I said, enough is enough. And I reached out to somebody else to kind of get their advice, and said, I just don't feel like I can be a part of it. Yes, it's for the same cause. It's going to possibly bring money in. But I just felt like, why are we fighting against each other? We're supposed to be working for the same cause here.
Yep, absolutely. Yep, and I have learned my lesson now. I only will deal with, y'all and other 501c3s that I can be on it's not always face to face, but I can pick up my phone and text you,
Mm-hmm.
Even if it was 2 a.m., I could text you about something. Matt in California, I really only will deal with those now because I've learned my lesson and been burned. And it just, sometimes I think they forget that they were in the same position that we were all in, and I don't understand it.
Yep, and it turns out that a lot of the bigger giant ones out there, that they're doing it more for the accolades than they are for the actual cause.
Yep.
And if it came down to it, and it was done the right way, it was explained to me as that, let them take the victory lap if that's what they want to do. You can still be involved in it, and I just, I couldn't. I felt like I got screwed.
Yeah.
So I took a different route, and I'm working on a different project now, and I'm involving I'm not involving them. And I involve people that I trust, that you get their advice on it. And as soon as it moves forward more, then I'll expand that network out to more people to get the support. But you just, be careful where you donate your money, and be careful the people that you trust with what you've got going on. It's a shame that we're in that same space and we're fighting against each other, but I guess it's just a reality of business.
Yep. Yep. And at the end of the day, that's what somebody told me, is that this is a business, and sometimes businesses have to make hard decisions. And yeah, we're 2.5 years in, we've been in that boat more times than I could count, but we are making a difference, just as y'all are. And we're making difference in these kids' lives and their families' lives. That's why we're doing our first car show in Louisiana, in Baton Rouge, June 22nd. Then we're having our third one in the Dublin, Texas area, October 5th. And that's our primary source of funding to be able to help these families with these funeral expenses.
And that's another thing, is when smaller names, I've been told that I have to boast. I have to almost brag. We're not a small nonprofit. We're a big nonprofit. You have to act like a big nonprofit, right? I know that we're small. Work out of our basement. We have a small board members, or a small group of board members. We don't have office space. How do you guys go about, aside from the events, how do you guys go about getting funding or partners or sponsors to really jump on board with you? And maybe, do you have some that just stick with you through the fight, or is it kind of a one and done?
So I am very fortunate to be a part of the Servant Souls Writing Club, and that they have, since Rylan was sick, they have been my backbone. And in fact, one of the founders, Squirrel, says that Rylan did more for the club in 6 months than he could do for the chapter in its history, the 5 or so year our history. And I think there's probably some degree of reality to that. But without those guys and gals, I would be drowning trying to take care of everything. And that's what's spurred on the show in Baton Rouge this year, is we have a chapter out there, and that they're putting on this thing for the Rylan Strong Network. When it comes to sponsors, we've had sponsors come and go, and I think the hardest thing I'm facing right now is getting sponsors. But then I look at the economy and see that it's just sort of in shambles, and it worries me, because it takes money to put these things on. And you make a big investment hoping to get your return back. And with the way everything's going right now, I'm sort of kind of worried about it, but we'll do good either way. I'm the people that, follow us on social media, the other 501c3s that we work with, like y'all, I couldn't do it without a network of people. And that's why we call it the Rylan Strong Network.
So that's one of those things. I think for us, we thought this year being the third year, putting on our big event, that it would be easier, that we'd have, more people know who we are. It'd be easier to get funding. And it's actually been harder this
Yep.
year. We raised our goal for our event, but more than 90% of that money came from social media. The corporate involvement was next to nothing.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
It's been horrible. And I'm trying to figure it out, because, for me, I guess if I look at it and you look at it, we can understand that children, that kids being the future, are the core of every industry. There's not an industry that they're not the core of, and that you can't find a connection to what you're doing. But yet a lot of the responses that we've gotten are, your mission doesn't align with our giving priorities, which I still am trying to figure that one out. Like, that's the most mind-boggling one. Especially, I reached out to a company, they're pretty big here in Wisconsin, and the CEO's daughter suffered the same type of cancer that our daughter did. Now, she survived, and she's in college and she's living her life. I thought, that's a shoo-in. They'll get involved. They'll want to be a part of this. Your mission doesn't align with our giving priorities. What in the hell does that mean? And what am I,
Yeah.
and what, we've also been told no, because we're donating the money to research. We're not keeping it right here in the neighborhood. We're not keeping it here. So because of that, we can't be a part of it because you're essentially just giving the money away. I'm so sorry, but this organization, your organization, 501c3s in this space are global. We're not
Yeah.
local. So I'm trying to figure it out.
I got one of those emails last year, and my exact words, I think, were well, I don't know. I can't say it on here, but I was just like, what are you even talking about? Like, are you kidding me? So, needless to say, I won't go barking up their tree anymore. But it's trying to get corporate sponsors has been the vein of my existence, and we are heavily, 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 if not almost 99.9% supported by the motorcycle community. When TikTok allows the videos to be seen, trying to get a big name motorcycle corporation to help us out has been non-existent until this year, and that's when Mike Bruno's Freedom Harley in Baton Rouge said, "Hey, y'all come have your show here," and I've been just so just so grateful for that to be able to do it. So it's hard. I don't know the magic. I wish I knew the magic words, but we're in the same boat. We have money come in, and then money goes right back out, and we run that fine line of trying to keep money in there to pay the bills, because there are bills that have to be paid if you have a 501c3, and riding that line still of how we give that money out, and doing everything that we can do for these families.
Yeah. There's running a 501c3 nonprofit is not free. It is also not an easy thing to do. And it's not something that everybody should take on, but it's definitely rewarding, and it's also a huge pain in the ass sometimes, because you are struggling so hard to get support for something that, to be honest with you, I feel like should be easy to get
Yep.
money for support, or people to be in your back pocket and say, "Hey, you support the kids. We're on board." We often make the joke, and I think it's true. If we were fundraising for boobs or animals, no problem. The money would be flowing in. But it's not the case. And, it's also about trying to meet the right people. And when you're a lot of these organizations, if you have to fill out online forms and things like that. It's not the way to go. You've got to find a way to meet the right people, to meet the person that knows the person that knows the person that's going to give you and that's hard, but you're building that network, you're building that value of people. And once you find that person, you hang on to them and you don't let go. And you hope that they spread the word within their community and their community, and they get you together. Because the reality is, I think a lot of these business owners want to help. I think they want to be a part of something good that's in the community, but they have shareholders and employees and investors that they have to answer to. I think they want to do more and their hands are tied, but at the same time, we've got to find a way to unhandcuff them, because we're struggling sometimes to get things done. And you look at the bank and you say, are we going to be able to do this month? Are we going to be able to send these care packages out? Are we going to be able to help with this family's funeral this month? Are we going to be able to do it? And you struggle because you don't want to turn anybody away. You don't want to say no, but it's a hard reality sometimes that we have to face.
Yep. I think it's you talk about a hard reality too, and I've seen it a couple of times. I guess I didn't know this month was Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. I don't know how I didn't know all that, but like these sponsors from the corporations, God bless all the moms out there, especially the mom. How do they say that? The momcologist, I think, is how they say that.
Yep.
Amazing moms. But especially since we're on your platform here, shout out to all the dads that are keeping it together, keeping the families going, working late nights, trying to pay the bills and take care of a sick kid too at the same time. That's keep going and keep the good fight up.
It's so important to, I think, to understand. And, we associate every month with something, with about 100 things probably.
Yeah.
There's something for everybody. And, but unfortunately what you see on the news or in you see one thing focused on every single month. And it's not against anybody in the groups that is focused on, but it's what's the most clickbaitable thing. That's what you're going to see. And in this space, is something that I've noticed as well. You don't see a lot of dads on the front lines. You see a lot of moms on the front line. Listen, moms are badass, strong women that are out there doing this fight. And we're just in the background sometimes, holding up the load and making sure the house doesn't fall in. And I'm happy to do it. I spent all the inpatient times with JC in the hospital. My wife stayed home with my other two girls to, make sure that the house didn't fall in. And she, ran everything. I felt like she had the harder job. She felt like I had the harder job. But I think there's a lot of dads out there, a lot of men that, they definitely put their mental health aside because of societal norms that we're supposed to be tough and strong and not show our emotions. Don't do it, man. If you feel, we have to make it a normal thing that it's okay to share your feelings with as men, as fathers, as dads. If you need a group of people, I'm not hard to find. Okay. I'm sure
Yep.
you're not hard to find. If you need somebody to talk to, we're here. That's another part of this advocacy is for the parents. It's for the families. This is a family diagnosis. But it's definitely something, listen, you got to take care of yourself. It's the oxygen mask on a plane theory. You have got to
Yep.
take care of yourself first before you can be good for somebody else.
Yep. Yep. And it's amazing, unfortunately, how good we get at supporting those other dads, because we were there. I mean, when Rylan was sick, if it hadn't been for my dad and his friend Frank Morris that had two kids in St. Jude's, I don't know where I would have been. So I just had to say shout out to all the badass dads out there doing a good job.
Yeah, you guys are doing incredible. Keep it up, and just don't forget that there is a group of people here for you. For anything, we're here to support you. We're here to support the family, but don't feel like you have to hide what you're truly feeling, because we understand that this is tough. This is hard. This is not a life that any of us want to be a part of. This is not a community that any of us wanted to be a part of. We sure as hell didn't wake up one morning and decide that this is what we wanted to advocate for. When people ask us, how do you do it every day? Well, we simply say that we were not given a choice.
Yep.
And that's the reality of it. And that's how we do it, because we weren't given, hey, do you want to do this today? I think we all would have said no. I think we all would have said, we'll pass. We'd rather have our kids healthy and not, going through the worst times of their life and fighting this battle that everybody seems to think is a rare and insignificant problem that is only getting worse every year. And the numbers are going up. And the only number that they talk about that's going up is an 80% cure rate. But we don't talk about the 95% reoccurrence, the 95% side effect rates they will deal with for the rest of their lives if they beat this disease now.
Yep. I would have taken an 80% chance when Rylan was diagnosed in a heartbeat. We had less than 2.
Yeah.
Not that it changes anything, but some hope. And I'm happy for all the families that beat this monster and get to see their kids grow up to fruition. But you're right. It's not just, okay, well, I've beaten cancer. It's okay, now I've beaten cancer and I'm blind. Now I'm beating cancer, and as a young girl, now as an adult, I've lost the ability to have children. Or for men, it's the same thing. There's so many side effects that go on, and it's not just the physical side effects; it's the mental side effects that families get broken apart when kids have cancer, and it just sucks for everybody.
Yep. That is the infamous 80-20 rule within this community. 80% of families will break up over this. And it's not, again, I say it every time, it's not a lack of love, anything like that. This is stress beyond what stress can produce. And it is not, there's no way for us to put into words or find a scale big enough to show you what it can do to you mentally and what it can do to you physically and what it can do to your psyche overall.
Yep.
So 20% is a very small percentage, and I wish that it was the other way around, but it's just a sad reality and side effect of this entire diagnosis is that it'll tear families apart.
Yep. Yep. I was so blessed to have such a strong support system. And still, like I said, I've still got it. But had it not been for those people, it was pick the dark and bleak ending after Rylan died, or pick the one that maybe we made a difference in some people's lives. So
Yeah, and I say that there's two different ways that people can go when that unfortunate day happens, and some families move forward in a way that create these organizations or just work into advocacy, and the other side of them, the other half, kind of just want to fade into the background, and they don't want to be part of this world anymore. They don't want to, or the cancer world anymore, and neither way is wrong, but that's the way we see it. And a lot of families that are going through this, and if their child passes or even if their child beats it, they want nothing to do with it. I mean, listen, my two older daughters are a great example of that. My 15, almost 16-year-old is gold ribbon all day, every day, and she will spout it from the rooftops that she is out there to support her sister and keep her memory alive. And my 18-year-old is, she loves her and she keeps her memory alive, but she doesn't want to be a part of everything that we're doing. And it's not right or wrong. It's just that some people deal with it in a different way.
yep.
But we never move on from what we've gone through. We only move forward.
Yep, absolutely. One step in front of the other.
Yep. You never know if you're going to trip either. And a lot of times we do. And another thing that I tell people is that what you guys see, even, we're coming up next month, will be, 3 years since JC passed, and it does not get easier. I think every year it gets harder. And because when you watch your other children grow up and go in to do things that she should have been able to do, I think it gets worse every year.
Yep.
Those happy occasions are also sad occasions. Wednesday I'll see my daughter graduate high school, something that JC will never be able to do. And these things are hard, and you never know what someone's going through. But moving forward is kind of the only option I think that we have. I wish that more people would just, I don't know. I'm gonna trail off and just sometimes get lost in thoughts here, but I wish more people understood what we truly were going through without actually having to understand it, because this is not a world that we wish on anybody. This is not a world that we would ever, think that you should be a part of. And to be honest with you, I hope one day that we go out of business because we're no longer needed.
Yep.
But that's right now, the reality is that we got to get a lot more people to hear what we're saying.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, is there anything else that you would like to add that maybe I missed? I feel like I got off on a little bit of a ramble. That happens sometimes. I can't help it. I
No,
can't.
hey, thanks for having me, for one, too. I love supporting what y'all do. June 22nd, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Mike Bruno's Freedom Harley Davidson. We're having our first car and bike show there. Then here in Dublin, Texas, October 5th is our third annual car and bike show. And we've actually sort of morphed into a live music event as well, too. So we're going to have Ryder Grimes out singing. The headlining concert will have live music all day, cornhole tournament, inflatables, adult beverages that I'm sure will be icy cold, barbecue. It's all tax deductible. Come out, get in, get a nice little tax write-off, and come out and support the community. I couldn't do anything that I do without the other board members of the Rylan Strong Network, and of course my brothers and sisters with the Servant Souls. Just thank y'all for everything that you do.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And anybody that can that wants to come out, please check that out. It's a great cause, a great event, and it's when everybody can just have a good time, and when you're doing it for something good, then it just is that much better. The drinks are that much colder, just so you know. You
Yep.
know.
RylanStrongNetwork.org is where you can go to buy your tickets. I guess I should say that so people can, and the flyers are up there. Of course, we're on Facebook, Rylan Strong Network, and TikTok as well, Rylan Strong Network. Even though they're shadow banning us right now. Shout out to Mark Zuckerberg. I'd appreciate it if you'd knock that off. But yeah, that's where we're at.
Yeah, I like to give a shout out to Show from TikTok as well, because you're shadow banning the hell out of my account. Do not allow anything to get out past the 200. We are the 200 Club champions. It's 200 views. That's about it, and that takes about a week to get there. It's just terrible, but we're doing the best we can, I guess, with what it is. I don't know, to end on it, I don't know if anybody has been paying attention, but we've been doing a little social experiment on TikTok lately, with going live and putting up political green screens, and actually then that brings 50 to 100 people into our lives, aside from the 10 people we normally have. But it's a lot of anger, and that's though that type of energy could be redirected into something good, instead of
Yep.
I mean, I don't know why. None of it matters. Okay, we're screwed no matter what. So none of it matters. Focus on something that can make a difference in this world. Definitely vote, because it's your right and it's your privilege, but it's not gonna change you're still gonna get up and go to work the next day. You're still gonna get up and live your life no matter what happens. There are lots of other causes out there that truly make a difference, and protecting and saving our children from something that is taking them away at an alarming rate, that is getting worse, is a far better cause than being angry at somebody simply because of colors on a screen.
Yep. I'm not opposed to it, and I've said it before. I will take my top off and put some shorty shorts on for a TikTok video if it'll help get the message out.
I hear you.
I'm not. I'm not. I'm not against it. I'll do what I have to do. That's where we're at too. I basically haven't made anything new because it's sunk, and I can't figure out how to fix it.
Yeah, I think we're just in an endless cycle of, it is what it is, and if certain social media goes away, well, there's plenty of other avenues that we will latch on to get our words out there. So
Yep,
it's,
absolutely.
it's only a loss to them, but we always like to say, no matter what we're doing on there, whether it's good, bad, or shouldn't be seen, it's anything for the kids. We have been pierced, tattooed, hurt, things in us, on us, around us, and we do it because no matter what we go through in a short amount of time, it's nothing compared to what these kids go through. And we want to make sure that they get the respect that they absolutely demand. They don't necessarily deserve, they demand it, because
Yep.
they are true champions and heroes that we should be mirroring our lives after, because of the way that they handle something that would put most of us just to our knees. The man flu is a real thing. We've all been through it, and I think we all act like babies. Our wives would attest to it.
It's worse than childbirth. What are you talking about?
I know it.
It's worse. It's worse. I don't know
Oh,
why it's questioned.
we're getting canceled now. Oh no. Oh boy. Yeah, it's terrible, and just think about the things that we gripe about on a daily basis, things that are so insignificant and get our blood pressure up, and what these kids go through, and they still smile every single day.
Yep.
So let's make a true impact. If you can, anything that you can give, even if it's just your time to take a minute and read and understand our organizations, what we stand for, share it out, be a part of what we do, our events. Come into our lives if we're on social media, share out our pages. The best thing we can do is get more eyes on what we're doing.
Yep, absolutely.
So with that, I will ask if you have any other advice you would like to leave the audience with.
Support us. Keep fighting the good fight, because you're not alone. And if you feel alone, call me. 254-403-9003. That's my phone number. It's on 24/7. Call Curtis, call Tim, call Matt. There's lots of dads out there. You're not alone. And we're here for you.
Perfect. I love it. Everybody, reach out if you ever need anything. We are all here for you. That's what these organizations are. They're for the kids, but we support the families. And during June, it's all about men, making sure that you take care of yourself and your mental health is on point, because without it, you can't be there for anybody else.
Absolutely.
So I will thank you so much for coming on here with me today and sharing your information. Make sure everybody check out their page, Rylan Strong Network, and check them out on Facebook, on TikTok, on the internet, everywhere you can find them, and give them a like, give them a follow, and make sure you are supporting them in any way that you can. And we will see you all next week. Thank you.